Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stephen King Cast, one man's musings on the works of Stephen King. Each week I will review one entry in the bibliography of Stephen King in the chronological order of publication, and this week I am reviewing episode 5 of Hulu's adaptation of Stephen King's 11/22/63. And now I want to share some iTunes reviews because if it weren't for iTunes, many of you would not be listening to the Stephen King Cast right now. And I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for all of the kind words that you have shared on iTunes. The Stephen King Cast, I should say this, guys. The Stephen King Cast is the highest rated Stephen King podcast out there, and that's because of all of you. When I sat down to record my first episode of Carrie in August of 2014, there had been months of going back and forth with myself as to whether or not this was something that I wanted to do and if there was going to be an audience. And it's just amazing to me, the audience that I do have, and you're all incredible, and I love just getting feedback from you and email, which I will share soon enough. But the iTunes reviews, in a way, it really legitimizes the Stephen King Cast, and I think that's I've been trying to really phrase what the iTunes review does for this podcast, and especially now that Stephen King is being buzzed about more with the recent Dark Tower news and with the weekly James Franco 11/22/63 series on Hulu. I think I've definitely seen an uptick in the ratings, so I think that a lot of people are heading on over to iTunes and typing in Stephen King and seeing what we get. And in order to keep the Stephen King Cast visible out there and easily searched, the more subscriptions and the more reviews that the podcast is able to get, the more visible the podcast will be. So we have a review from WTF Buddy, who writes one complaint, and they write, "The only issue that I have is that it needs to be longer. Great pod, great host, could listen all day." So thank you, WTF Buddy. Up next, we have Delwyn Mulrooney, who writes, "Highly recommended. This is a terrific podcast for constant readers. It's all about the stories with insightful analysis and an engaging presentation. It's smart but not pretentious like King himself. And it's an excellent trigger for remembering the books you've read many times and the ones you haven't read in many years." So thank you, Delwyn Mulrooney. I've always struggled with that. I've never wanted to dip into pretension, but I always wanted to go deep as I can into Stephen King's works. So I'm glad that so many of you have responded so positively to it. And then we have Remrakasil, who writes, "So fun. As a King fan since the mid-'80s, I am truly enjoying this podcast. The enthusiasm is contagious, and it makes me want to reread every book as it goes along." So, Remrixil, and I'm butchering that, I'm sure. I just thank you so much. And lastly, we have Painterpalooza, who writes, "Take your medicine. I thoroughly enjoy this podcast. I'm a longtime fan of King, and it's very interesting how many of the hosts' reading experiences mirror my own. I look forward to each episode and particularly enjoy the connections to the Dark Tower series that are explored for each story." So Painterpalooza, thank you for leaving that review. And Remrakasil, thank you for leaving your review. Delwyn Mulroney and WTF Buddy, thank you so much for leaving these reviews. And anyone out there that has not left a review, if you have a couple minutes on your hands, just head on over to iTunes and leave a review, because like I said, that would really help out the Stephen King Cast. Okay, guys, up next we have some listener email. So this kind of goes along with the iTunes reviews, except this really allows you to get your thoughts out to me in much more clarity, because I, from the get-go, did not want this to be just myself shouting into the void. I want to make sure that I'm engaging with all the listeners out there I want your experiences. I wanna know how you got into Stephen King and what Stephen King means to you and your favorite Stephen King stories or experiences and the Stephen King books that you are not that fond of and the reasons why. Because the more you're able to share that, then the more people I'm able to share that with, and we grow our community, our quartet, just a little bit more. So Dusty writes, hello, Constant Reader. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you that I am so grateful for your podcast. I haven't made it through all of them yet because you have inspired me to reread his publications in order. I never really thought about being able to see the author's writing evolve over time. I've been a constant reader since age 12. I'm now 34, and every time I pick up a Stephen King book, I feel like I'm at home. You were correct in saying Stephen King has been missing from current pop culture discourse, paraphrasing. Then you reminded me about the commercials for his books. Books! Hearing you discuss the stories as well as the film adaptations has been entertaining and engaging. You bring up points that I somehow missed and sometimes wish I could chime in with my own opinions. Well, you are now. You have an opportunity to do so, so please, whenever you get a chance, take that opportunity and share your own opinions. Maybe the biggest reason I love listening to your podcast is that whenever I meet a fellow constant reader, I feel like we speak the same language. It's almost familial, tribal. It makes me feel connected to others in a meaningful way. So for that, thank you. I look forward to catching up on all of the episodes, and I really hope you will continue with the podcast for as long as you can. Best wishes, Dusty. Dusty, thank you for writing in. And so for those of you who are just tuning in, and for those of you who are not just tuning in, but have been listening for a while and kind of forgot, I kind of forgot as well. When I sat down with the first episode of Carrie, the thing that I stressed was, when I did a search for Stephen King podcast, I didn't find much, and it just kind of hammered home that while other authors are talked about on Twitter, and there are think pieces written about them, and they're in the pop culture conversation, I found that Stephen King was not in the same amount of conversations as, say, J.K. Rowling or George R. Martin or I'm drawing a blank, Suzanne Collins? Is that who wrote The Hunger Games? But, these are the authors that are generating a lot of conversations. And with young adult novels just existing for intellectual properties to be just snatched up and turned into movies, we are talking a lot about literature that's being adapted, but literature nevertheless. And I just found that we weren't talking about Stephen King that much. And I think that has changed a little bit. I think that, like I said, with all the conversations around It and the Stand movie that kind of fell apart, and the It movie that kind of fell apart. And but with The Dark Tower, that was big when Entertainment Weekly broke the news a couple weeks ago. And 11/22/63, that's 8 weeks of Stephen King conversation that's occurring right now. It's not really setting the chatter on fire, but it is generating a buzz, and well-deserved buzz, I should say. So, Dusty, thank you for writing in, and feel free to write in with more thoughts when you get a chance. And then Dave writes, hello, Constant Reader. I just wanted to express thanks for your truly outstanding podcast. It's the thorough analysis Stephen King deserves, and I hope someday he'd make an appearance if he does that sort of thing. You should ask. So, Dave, I haven't really gone back and forth on this one. I don't think that Stephen King has ever. I doubt that this has ever crossed Stephen King's periphery. Right? I think that Stephen King lives his own world and he lives his own life. And if anyone wants to kind of see what that life is from an outsider's perspective, I strongly recommend that you look up sk-tours.com and take a pilgrimage to Bangor. And Stu from sktours.com or sk-tours.com will take you all throughout Stephen King's hometown, and you'll see that I don't want to say that it's not extravagant, but you're going to realize that he really is just I mean, I have never met the man and I don't know him, but I mean, just from the town that he's living in, it's just a normal little city. And though he lives in a pretty big mansion, it's not really set back. It's surrounded by other houses, and it's not that far from downtown, and it's I mean, he has gates and he has his privacy, but it's privacy also while being public and being part of community as well. So why did I just bring that up? I don't remember why I brought that up. So, oh yeah, so Dave had written about the him making an appearance. So I just think that he lives a normal life like anybody else, and I think that with maybe his writing and his books being turned into movies and all the thought that goes into his own creativity, I doubt that he has the time to listen to others talk about his works. So I wouldn't imagine that A, he's listened to this, and B, if he has, I doubt that he really has devoted much time to doing so, and I don't think that he would want to be interviewed by me, even if he was asked. And I don't even know if I would ask him, because I just feel like I would be Chris Farley from that Saturday Night Live skit back in the 90s, like, Chris Farley just talking to Paul McCartney. Other than me saying, like, you remember that time when you wrote The Stand? It was awesome. Like, I don't imagine that I would be able to get out much more than that. So it probably wouldn't make for a good listen, guys. So Dave continues, I loved reading Stephen King as a youth, and It and The Stand were my favorites. My main reason to write you, though, is to thank you for helping me inspire me to revisit King. I have to confess that I stopped reading King after Insomnia, sorry, and I hadn't revisited him until listening to your podcast. As a mail carrier, I spend some of the workday listening to podcasts and came across yours, and it helped bring back a lot of memories to when I really enjoyed reading him. The Audible app owes my subscription fee to you and you alone. I've checked out Revival, Just After Sunset, Bizarre of Bad Dreams, and 11/22/63, and Doctor Sleep is next. I just signed up for Hulu as well and look forward to your opinions on the series, fingers crossed. I know that you've gotten through the lexicon, but I sincerely hope you continue with the podcast. Thanks again, Dave. Dave, thank you for writing in, and just thank you for the kind words. And my father-in-law is a mail carrier, and my best friend was a mail carrier for a time, and so I know secondhand. I know the monotony that comes with that particular profession. So I anything that I can do to help you out and sort of break that monotony, I'm glad that I'm able to help you out with that. Okay, and so that's all that I have for listener emails today. So let's just get to the review of 11/22/63. So we pick up right where we left off, with Sadie storming out of Jake's place after hearing the recorded tapes. His weak explanation is that he was listening to a drama with Russian actors. Sadie doesn't know the truth, but knows enough to know that he's not telling the truth. Now, at this point, we are more than halfway through the series. And while I liked the initial sparks between Jake and Sadie, I am now agreeing with the criticism that the show really has just failed to capture the depth of their relationship. Now, I was really hoping that with the multi-episode run of this show that we would get at least one full bottle episode hour of a Friday Night Lights-esque storytelling episode where there's no update on the assassination plot and where we just get a relatively conflict-free look at life and Jody. We go to a football game. We go to the dance. We see Jake connecting with his students. We see he and Sadie getting to know each other. I mean, by this point now, we've hit a major beat in their relationship, and it just feels too soon. It's like we've rushed through that warm honeymoon phase, and I feel like we shouldn't have rushed it. It was important to show the life in Jody. I mean, without it, Jake doesn't have anything to fight for. Jody became home. And aside from some scenes with Miss Mimi and Deke, there just isn't that much life to Jody. So as I'm watching this episode, I keep wondering what I'm going to get out of it. You know, maybe I'll get the Jody fix that I need, and I don't. I mean, as I watched it, I said to myself, yeah, I'm sure that will get some Jody, but I doubt that it would be enough to rectify the missed opportunity thus far. And my fears are immediately reinforced when he's being chewed out by Deke. In the conversation, Jake refers to the reasons why he was a great teacher in the book, the reasons why Jody mattered as much as it did. You know, getting his students to act and write poetry. In the book, we saw him as an inspirational teacher, a major influential figure in this small Texas town, and we just don't get that here. What we do get is a flashback to Jake's past and his truly horrendous goatee. I mean, seriously, guys. It's like the hair and makeup department tried to one-up whoever glued the animal carcass to Matthew Fox's face in those Lost episodes. Now, as bad as that beard is, it is not as bad as his teaching. He is a pretty terrible teacher, guys. I mean, I think that that's something that the show truly fails at. So we see a scene in the present, right, with his goatee. And this scene should show us his inherent gift at teaching. Instead, it's used to reinforce the time-traveling conflicts that the show is built upon. And if that isn't enough, we get another Chris Cooper flashback where, again, we discuss the possibility of murdering Oswald. Now, look, maybe it's nitpicking, but I would say that Jake's mission, it's the one thing that the show has done a thorough job with. So scenes like this isn't icing on the cake. It's more cake on top of cake. It's a little bit too much. Anyway, we get a reminder of how the past pushes back against the person trying to change it. And as Jake prepares to shoot Oswald, the past manifests itself in the form of Johnny Clayton, played by T.K. Knight. And like I said last week, the actor is killing it in this role. He has taken what could have been a flash-in-the-pan, one-note, abusive villain and turned him into something strange and memorable. And here we get our episode's conflict. Jake needs to get to Oswald before Oswald can pull the trigger on General Walker to determine whether or not he was acting alone. But he can't leave Sadie at the hands of her maniacal ex-husband. But hey, Hulu's Jake has something that Book Jake never had, and that's Bill. With Bill in his pocket, he can now be two places in once, and he chooses Sadie over his main mission. And I'll say that the directing here, as Jake walks into Sadie's house, is perfectly done. All right? When he walks into her house, it's nightmarish. And she's just sitting there at the kitchen table with a bloody pillowcase over her face. And that image, it's 10 times worse than the reveal of her facial wound. Not that the makeup is bad and not that it's terrible. It's just that anything could be wrong with her at that moment. It's such a truly unsettling image. It's just horrific. But not as horrific as Franco's limp reaction to it or the complete blankness on his face as Clayton monologues. Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea how many emotions would be swirling on his face as he's held at gunpoint, watching the love of his life with a massive bloody scar down her face, and knowing that it's because of his machinations in time? Like, we should be seeing just the following emotions play over his face: guilt, anger, fear, concern, loathing, and the need to get back to his mission. Right? I mean, so there should be so much registering all throughout his face. And Franco, who I've stuck up for in these episodes, I mean, he conveys, guys, none of these emotions. None. Like, he kind of goes for anger, but he swings and he misses. This was a ripe opportunity for some truly powerful acting. And there is some good acting in this scene, but it's not coming from James Franco, unfortunately. I mean, at least they give Sadie some steel in her spine in this scene, goading Clayton even with a gruesome wound and a gun pointed at her. She mocks him. She shows a resiliency despite the pain and the torment that she's suffering. And that's partially how she's written, and it's partially how it's acted. Now, I don't think that Jake, the character, or Franco take the opportunity to shine in this scene. They're quite literally saved by the bell, and then we cut to Bill and Marina sharing a cigarette. Now, I talked last week a lot about Bill's growing affection towards Marina and the fact that it creates a very nice deviation from the book as it functions as a wild card. I don't know how it's going to play out, if it is going to play out, but I imagine that they're putting it in place so it does play out, which keeps me on my toes because it's completely new, invented, and I love it. So Bill and Marina, they're sharing a cigarette. And not only is this a nice organic growth within this story, but it's also a great mirror to the A-plot. You know, I mean, we have our sidekick in Jake's role, right? In his own little love triangle, and you know the love interest's husband is just like Clayton, an unpredictable threat. Now back at Sadie's house, Clayton gets a face full of bleach and starts firing blindly throughout the room. Jake swings a fire poker to his skull, and Sadie fires the killing shot. Bill, meanwhile, stalking Oswald, goes a little crazy, believing that a passerby is his sister, causing him to become distracted enough to miss Oswald taking the shot at Walker. And then it ends with Sadie in the hospital, and then Jake drops the bomb on her that he's from the future. So, okay, that's over with. What I liked from the book was the subverted expectations. After spending a significant amount of time with each other, this is a conclusion that Sadie arrives to on her own. We haven't seen much of Jake's anachronisms aside from a few pop culture references, and it's why I think a little more time spent together would have gone a long way in making this scene more impactful. Though he does use the "from here till eternity" line, and I just really like that. I think that is a nice addition to this story. So I would say that this episode is the first episode since the pilot that really made me pause and say, it's not that great. I just watched it, and to me, it's just full of missed opportunities. Whereas I believe episodes 2, I thought 2 was very, very strong. See, I'm already forgetting. I thought 3 was strong. I don't, they're all blending together now, but I do. 2 was a particularly strong episode, and 3 and 4, I thought were steps in the right direction, but this, I believe, was a step backwards. And we're nearing in the last 3 hours now, guys. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. We have a lot of ground to cover if it's going to play out as it does in the book, and I'm not sure if it will or not. Not that it has to, and not that it will be bad if it doesn't follow the events from the book the same way. It's fine if it doesn't. It's totally fine if it doesn't. As long as it is true to the story that they're telling and done to the best of the ability and maximizes the characterization and the conflicts and the tension and the love and the themes. If that's done, then I don't care how it's done, just as long as it's done well. And this particular episode, I think that there was just a lot of missed opportunities. So, agree, disagree, write in at stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. And like I said at the top of the episode, you can head on over to iTunes and leave a review and a subscription, which would go a long way in helping out the Stephen King Cast. Okay, everyone. So it is Monday. It is Monday the 14th, and I can't predict the future, but if I was a betting man, I would bet that you will not be getting an episode of an 11/22/63 review anytime next week. I will be able to publish one episode. It will be a top 10 list, but I think that I will be a little bit busy next week, and so I don't know if I will have time to watch 11/22/63, write a review of 11/22/63, and record an episode next week. I think that next week is going to be out of my hands. So, but there will be an episode of Stephen King Cast. It just won't be an episode of 11/22/63.
Oh my God, I'm gonna start crying. I was just talking about that's when my wife was due to have our daughter. That's why I was being vague about not being able to publish an episode the following week. It's crazy how time flies. Anyway, if you have any time on your hands, speaking of time, you can head on over. If you have any time, please leave a review of the Stephen King Cast on whatever podcast platform you use to listen to the Stephen King Cast. You can always write into stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. And you can follow me on Blue Sky, on TikTok, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Okay, so that's all that I have for now. So may you have long days and pleasant nights, and I'll see you here next week where MOON spells Stephen King Cast.